Liberate IT is an Oracle NetSuite solution provider that has been servicing Australian and New Zealand companies since 2011.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining this webinar hosted by Liberate IT. As most of you know me, my name is Steve Pye. I'm the Sales Manager at Liberate IT, and I am your host today. Our Liberate IT webinar series, so we run these, our NetSuite overview, which is another webinar that we run, which is our NetSuite product tour. So we invite any new users to attend. We also run monthly Liberate IT consulting webinars as well, and as well as the Suite App partners that we have monthly, for example, that we have EzyCollect today. And then also we have industry experts that come along and present on all things that's relating to the industry, specifically around cloud computing and ERP. EzyCollect is an Australian-owned company and owned and operated software company building best-in-class solutions for accounts receivables management. From invoice to payment, EzyCollect's suite of tools are built into one easy-to-use cloud application that integrates seamlessly with NetSuite. More than 1,200 organizations over 30 countries rely on EzyCollect with streamlined credit management and collection workflows. They work with wholesale distributors, manufacturers, construction, building suppliers, food and beverage companies, retailers, and professional services. Companies choose EzyCollect to help them solve the problem of late payments and protect their businesses from bad debt risks. I would like to our participants today, I would like to introduce you to Aj Singh, the CEO of EzyCollect. Aj has worked in wholesale distribution, manufacturing, e-learning operations, consulting, and marketing space. Aj has experienced firsthand the pain and stress of poor cash flow in his wholesale medical distribution business, and he's used this experience to build a platform that takes away the pain of late payments. His business, EzyCollect, now has 50 staff and 1,200 customers across 18 countries, almost 3 years working with NetSuite, and about 87 EzyCollect NetSuite customers. He's the father of 3 beautiful girls and a dog, and lives in Sydney, Australian born with Indian roots. His hobbies are golf, tennis, and cricket are his hobbies. And on that note, I'd like to welcome Aj to the Liberate IT webinar series. Over to you, Aj.
All right, thank you, Steve, and good morning, everyone. And thank you for that warm introduction. The photo on your screen looks a bit different to what I look like now. I've lost a lot more hair since then, and it's purely because of the stress that I've had running a business and trying to manage cash flow, as I'm sure some of you are here to listen to about today as well. So, Steve, what I'll do is I'll actually share my screen. So if you can stop sharing for a couple of minutes, I'll just move across and share my screen. And yes, I shall get into it. So thank you, everyone, and thank you for hosting us today. I know everyone's time is very, very valuable, and so I want to make this session really, really useful with some really practical tips that you can take away in your business today. And the topic really, as Steve mentioned, is to show you what is EzyCollect, but EzyCollect in the context of how can EzyCollect help you with your cash flow. And today, in the time we're in, it's more relevant than ever, and we've seen a lot of our customers that have been using our product thrive through this time, and we want to share some of those learnings with you. So again, if there's any issues with audio, please just raise your hand or use the Q&A chat box and ask questions as you go through. We will answer questions at the end, but if you have some questions that you want to talk through, please do type it in, and Steve is going to moderate, and he'll be able to ask the questions as we go through. So Steve, I'll let you deal with the chat if that's okay, and I'll get on with the presentation. Again, if there's any issues with the audio, just let me know, Steve.
Yep,
all right, so Perfect. So look, as you mentioned, Steve, EzyCollect started as a byproduct of my own experience, having run a small to medium wholesale manufacturing business, and we grew that business fairly rapidly. But in that rapid growth, we had a fair bit of cash flow issues, primarily caused because of customers that were not paying us on time, and the fact that we had to pay our suppliers and we had payables that we had to pay on time because we wanted to get the goods in either from overseas or we were manufacturing, and we would give our customers credit, typically 30 days from end of month, which was the terms here, and people would take that as a nice to have, never as a you must pay before on that date. And as a result, we had to hire more and more staff to chase. We had to go down the path of using finance because we had to fund that gap in cash flow, and it really caused stress in our business, and it caused issues for not just our business, but it's the reason why 90% of businesses fail, right? And it's the reason why 40% of businesses use finance is because of this cash imbalance. So when I sold that business, I had some time to think and reflect on how we can help solve that problem, and that's where EzyCollect was born. It was out of a real problem, and what we're doing to solve it is, years of in the trenches experience, and then working with some really smart people to build this platform called EzyCollect, which is really a accounts receivables platform that will enhance what you're already doing. So what the platform does is says you already have a process, you already have people, you might be doing it yourself today, managing the AR process. It's going to help you be more effective. It's going to streamline that, what we call order to cash or invoice to cash process. So I'm going to say up front, the platform is something that does not replace people. It doesn't take away that need for a strong AR function. What it does, it makes it a lot more effective because we know the fact that in accounts receivables, people are the most important aspect. Having that human connection, that contact with your customers is the number one effective reason for you getting paid on time. But the way we can help you do that through the platform is what I want to show you today. So I want to show you one slide and then get into an actual demonstration of the product. So like I mentioned, it's an order-to-cash platform, and what you have on the slide here is what is EzyCollect. So there are a few different parts to the product, and when you look at the order-to-cash, a lot of people focus on, hey, once I sent the invoice, let me collect, and that whole chasing process. But really, it starts with working with the right customers to begin with. One of the problems I had in my last business was I never knew the real credit risk of my customers. When I opened up a new customer account, I always had a trade application form, and those trade application forms were typically one page. It would ask, who are you? What's the director's name? How much credit do you want? And I would literally fax that to my customers, and they would fax it back. So you can see this was a few years ago, and I would give people credit on $5,000, $10,000 credit based on a one-page application form, which is really not the best way to give credit. So when we built this product, we said, let's fix that first. The first thing we'll fix in Module 1 is let's give our customers superpowers. Let's give you access to real credit scores and credit history right in the app so you can make smarter decisions. So one of the first things is about giving you as a business the confidence and the information to know who are the customers that you should work with, how can you do those credit assessments more effectively, and how can you have an ongoing monitoring service so that you know if they become a bad risk later on. Because our purpose is really to help you run a better business. And if we can start by doing that through the cash collection process, that's something that is the reason why we exist. Once you have the right customers, that's the module I'll show you firstly. The next module is how do you chase those customers? And chasing is all about not just automation. It's about using what you already have in NetSuite, extending that functionality with EzyCollect, taking the fact that you already have people in the business chasing. How do you give them the superpowers to be more effective and to focus more on the human connection and let some of that stuff around that just happen seamlessly? And that's what we call collection automation. It's a module I'll show you as well. And the last thing is, how do you make it easy for your customers to actually pay you? So this is like having a customer portal or a payments portal where your customers can come in, they can make payments by credit card, they can view invoices, download invoices, and that's really important because it reduces those barriers. And then lastly, we'll show how this is a full circle, how, if you have all the best processes and all the best tools and people still don't pay, what do you do? So we'll show you how you can integrate into third-party debt collectors that you might already be using, how you make it simple. So that's what the platform is. And I'm going to get into an actual demonstration now of the product. So Steve, any questions or comments so far? And if not, let's also launch let's launch the poll. So as I go through this, Steve's going to put up a poll that I just want to get a bit more feedback about you and who we're talking to and some of the pain that you have. So you should see two questions on your screen. One should be, if you can just share in your business what percentage of customers you feel typically pay on time. And then the second question, which is, we'll talk about later on, is do you currently accept credit card payments? And if you don't, I'll tell you why you're missing out on a massive amount of cash flow if you don't, and I'll explain that to you in a minute. So if you want to just fill in the poll, I will then just give a minute for everyone to do that, and then we'll get into it. So Steve, I think you've launched a poll, right? Can everyone see the poll? I assume.
Yeah,
that's a yes.
They're just working through it, and shouldn't be too far away. Take
Perfect.
The results. And no questions have come through just yet.
Perfect. Okay. So to give everyone a sense of what is EzyCollect, just to take a bird's eye view, firstly, we are a built for NetSuite app, right? So as Steve mentioned, we extend the functionality of NetSuite when it comes to the accounts receivable and credit management functionality, and we have some brand new functionality that NetSuite doesn't have. We are BFN, means built for NetSuite verified, and we have close to 1,200 customers in about 30 countries. And what we are is we're a SaaS, so we're a software as a service. It plugs into NetSuite, and you will not have to spend more than a couple of hours having EzyCollect installed. It's a really quick process to get up and running, and then we'll give you one-on-one training to make sure you get the system set up correctly. So a typical customer who's using NetSuite can be up and running with this product in under 48 hours, right, with all the training done. And once it's done, all the data is synced both ways between NetSuite and EzyCollect. So you don't have to worry about having a separate system that you have to manage and maintain. This is a system that's going to not give you more work, it's going to reduce your work, right? So the very first thing that I want to show you is this concept of the fact that, the first step of getting paid on time, before I go into this credit reporting and the credit insights and the credit module, I want to talk about this collection automation module, right? And the very first thing that I want to raise there is that the key to getting paid faster is not rocket science. It is, it's all about consistent, persistent, polite, and personalized communication, especially on a business-to-business context. It's all about the relationship, and you want to make sure that you guys nail that, right? And so how do we bring in smart automation, or what I like to call humanized automation, into a process where the relationship is so important, but yet you need to get some efficiencies around being smarter with the way you manage that collection. So when we built EzyCollect, we took that concept of the squeaky wheel, as we call it, and what you can see on my screen here is an example of how you can set up a series of squeaky wheels to manage your collections. And it starts from the day you raise the invoice in NetSuite, and you can then forget about it, because EzyCollect will then kick in, and based on the process that you set up for your business, it's all tailored and customized and personalized with your own branding. There's no EzyCollect anywhere. People think it's coming from you, right? You set up a series of, initially you can start with pre-reminders. You can do follow-ups as well after it's due, and the system is smart enough to recognize due dates and your terms. You don't have to worry about, when will the email get sent. If you have terms set up in your NetSuite for different customers, it'll say, okay, if you wanted to go after 5 days or 12 days, it's all customizable. It'll shoot off that first, email. That email doesn't have to be an email. That can be an SMS. It can be a fax. Yes, we still can support faxes, and it's all automatic, right? It can be a physical letter by mail as well. So it can do that automatically. It goes to the post office, and they'll print it, fold it, stamp it, and send it automatically if you want to do that as your first step. I'd recommend email as a good first step, or you can do a call straight away, and I'll explain to you how calls work. And the biggest thing, people say, hey, I didn't get a copy of the invoice, as a reason to delay. Attach overdue invoices, attach statements. All that can be done in this one-time template setup. You can drag and drop different merge fields from NetSuite, so it's really personalized, right? So when someone sees that particular email, I've got an example of what that email could look like. It does a couple of smart things. One is it consolidates all your invoices to the same customer in one email. So it's got the smarts to say, hey, in that first email, if this person owes me 3 invoices and 3 are overdue and 3 are not overdue, let's put it into one email, because that's what a real person would do, right? You wouldn't send 60 emails based on different due dates. So it's got some smarts there to make it look like it's coming from a real person. And it'll tailor that together, and you can add things like a pay now button or a pay by, and I'll show that to you later on, because that's a really important part of the system. So when your customer gets this at 8 o'clock at night, when they want to pay the bills, super simple for them to actually action that. I'll come back to this in a few seconds. Coming back to the actual collection flow, if someone does pay, by the way, on their first email, happy days, you can automate a thank you message as well, right? So these are small things, and I honestly tell you, when people get thank you emails for payment, especially when they're paying you late, it makes such a big difference. They're like, hey, they're thanking me for making a payment. You will get paid faster the next time. And I take that a step further. Call your customers once every 2 months to actually thank them for like paying you. It'll open up conversations, and you'll always be on top of that payment queue. It's about that humanizing that automation. We see customers doing it every time, and it makes a world of difference. So you've got your emails. You can do SMS as your next step. And you know what our data shows us across our thousands or so customers is that the first couple of steps, if you use an email or an SMS, it covers about 30 to 40% of your customers. So 40% of your customers will actually respond to those first 2 steps. That's your low-hanging fruit. Those are customers that you don't need to call, so you can be more efficient with your time. But what the data shows is that you need to do a call in that next step or the third step if you want to get from that 30% to that 80%. Because these are customers that actually will only pay when you call or when you push a little bit or when you give them that sense that, hey, talk to me. I need you to talk to me. And that's when the system EzyCollect can really come to its own, because when the call is due, the system will actually check have they paid. And if they haven't paid, it'll send you a daily task list of who you need to call that day. So you as an accounts receivables person or as a CFO or as an owner of a business can be on top of your activities for the day, because these are the activities you must do. Okay, so when you get that email, it'll be in your inbox at 9 o'clock in the morning. You can, or even earlier if you like, you can click on the email and it'll take you to this page in EzyCollect called Your Tasks. Okay, and there's a list of the tasks or call tasks, as we call it, that you would need to make today. Now, hopefully your task list isn't this big. This is clearly a demonstration file, and I have 74 calls to make. But typically it could be 10 to 12 calls a day that you have to make, depending on how many customers that you have. And what you have here is a screen that shows you, okay, I have to call this customer. They're on the 6th stage, so you have different stages, that you can follow up. So this could be the second time you have to make a phone call, right? So and you can see how many days overdue the customer is based on their oldest overdue invoice, how much they owe you, when was the call actually due. So you might be, quite late in making that call. And then really, really importantly here, what you see is something called risk level. So risk level is something which I think is going to change your life. If you're an accounts receivables person on the call and you're making calls to your customers, the risk level is something which we have done in partnership with a company called Dun & Bradstreet, which is in Australia and New Zealand called Illion. They're Australia's largest credit reporting bureau. So if you know names like Creditor Watch and Equifax and Illion, these are your top 3 credit reporting bureaus. Dun & Bradstreet's global, and it's one of the largest ones here. And so what we've done is we've done a partnership with them, and we've said, give us all the data that you have on late payment scores, which is a chance someone's going to pay you late, and failure risk, the chance that someone's actually going to fail, right? And bring it into our app, into the EzyCollect app. So when you look at your customer, you can say, hey, look, Kohler, Kutch, and Bergstrom is actually a severe risk. And then what it actually means, you can actually read. What it's saying is these customers are paying you really late because we have information on your own accounting system on how they're paying you. We combine that with the data coming from the external party, and they're paying other suppliers super late too. So what we're saying is, hey, this is someone who you need to probably be really careful about, right? Whereas if you have something that says watch and monitor, for example, these are customers that are possibly paying you, on time. This is what the actual description shows. So they're kind of paying you on time, but the external data coming in, right, is showing that these debtors may be having difficulty settling debts with other suppliers. So somehow they're paying you on time. Maybe you're a key supplier, but they're paying other people late. So maybe you should be careful. Don't extend too much credit. Just be careful by these people. And this is like magic superpowers that you have in your EzyCollect app that allows you to humanize your connection as well. So someone is a severe risk, right? You could either go and go, hey, and obviously you wouldn't tell them that you're a severe risk because these are your superpowers that they don't know you have. But you wouldn't necessarily want to go and beat them up because they might be having a tough time. This is where I said EzyCollect enables you to perform your job better. You would call the customer potentially and say, look, I understand potentially, you're paying us late and you might be paying other people late. How can we help you pay us first? What are the things that we can do? Can we set up a payment plan? Can we do this? Can we do that? And if you can humanize that connection and be very clear and establish a commitment for them to pay you and be clear about the fact that, look, we understand you're having problems, let's set up a payment plan. At least you're going to the conversation with your eyes open and you know how to humanize that call, how to connect with your customers. So when I do have to call this customer, Hassel, Boyd, and Glenn, what I have is I have all the history of what's already happened, any notes I made previously. So let me just go into a customer here. For example, I'm calling a customer. I have all the notes of what's already happened. I can see previous emails that were sent. I can see copies of those emails that were sent. I can see call notes that I've made. So for example, call us will pay today, XYZ, all my notes are here. I can see what my next step is. I can see the risk. I can see all my contact information. I can see all my invoice information. So when I actually make that phone call, I can record my notes here. So let me actually go make this phone call. So I'll go here. I'll complete the phone call. Today is the date that I'm making the call. I'll say spoke to Steve. Sorry, Steve. I'll say Steve said he would pay. I think he's lying as usual. Sorry, Steve.
It's all right, mate.
It's something. These are your own. That's not good grammar. These are your own notes. And then once you make that call note, the system can actually prompt you to send an email to Steve to say, "Hey, Steve, really looking forward to your payment tomorrow. Thanks, mate." And you hit send, and it'll send that email. So what you've got in one step is your actual call note is saved, and in a few seconds, the email to Steve will also be saved. Now, in this situation, you might want to say, you know what, I don't want to chase Steve for the next 5 days because he's promised to pay me. So you would go in here and you could do things like, okay, let me actually pause any communications to Steve for the next, let's say, 5 days, and just say, it's a promise to pay, right? Because you don't want to chase someone when they've promised to pay. But what's great about doing this is the system will now stop, right, chasing for the next 6 days in this case. Come the 30th of June, it'll check has Steve paid because it knows, from your NetSuite system whether the invoice is open or closed. And if it's closed, it'll unpause and stop any further activity. But if he hasn't paid, it'll unpause, alert you that the system's going back to active, and it will start chasing Steve again at the next step. So you don't have to worry anymore about putting notes in your diary, I better call this person back. You will have a system that'll enable you to get those alerts so you are on top of your list, per se. And that's a very big help when you're trying to manage, 50, 60 customers, right? And in the dashboard here, you've got a lot more information, right? Okay, who are my oldest customers, who are my largest customers, who are customers who are paused and excluded, that are currently not being chased. If you want to go back, you can have a look at them. Who are customers who have gone past all my 6 steps I need to do something different with? And who are my really crazy customers who are in my red zone? Red zone are customers that you can define as you need to, in every weekly meeting with your boss, or if you are the boss, you need to be worried about them, right? So there's a lot of reports here that you can look at that are all about the AR process. So I'm going through fairly quickly, and I speak fairly quickly. Any questions so far, just while I just take a pause for a second, or any comments?
Nothing yet has come through, AJ. So yeah.
Okay, perfect. So now, if you can imagine, if I just go back to this, if I just cancel, show you. So in this screen, I've made my call, and like I said to you, if I ever feel like a customer's really, really at risk and that calling makes no sense, I can always click a button and I can escalate to a third-party lawyer or a debt collector with a click of a button. Because sometimes a lot of businesses we find don't know what to do after they've done everything they can internally. Now, you might already have a debt collector, you might already have a lawyer that you use. We can plug them in here directly. But if you don't, what the system does, if I click send demand letter, it will take all the history, all the invoices, all the communication that you've done and send it to our third-party lawyer, who will then, for I think it's like $45 or something, send a demand letter the very same day to your customer, right? And that's a really effective tool to scare people. I don't recommend doing it unless you really need to do it. But someone's not paying you and you're getting no luck. It's called a demand letter because it's really saying on their letterhead, you better pay this customer. And if that doesn't work, you can go to debt collection, which is a more traditional. They work on a percentage of the debt, and it's on a no-win, no-fee basis. So if they collect, they'll take between 12 and 25% off the debt, right? So that can also be automated through here. But that's kind of the last steps, right? But what I wanted to really show you is when you are sending that email through EzyCollect, whether it's automated or whether you do it as a manual email through here, or you do it through your Outlook, or you do it through a sales order in NetSuite, or you do it through an invoice in NetSuite, having a Pay Now button, this little Pay Now button here, is absolutely critical for you to enable you to get faster payments. So what I mean by that is that imagine, like I got 3 kids, as Steve mentioned, and a dog, and I put the kids to bed. My kids are 7, 5, and I got a little baby as well, and they're in bed by 8 o'clock. And I then kind of look at my bills I have to pay, and look, you might think I'm a small business. I'm, big businesses don't do that. But what we're seeing, more and more people are paying by credit card, and they're paying after hours. And if you don't have a way to accept credit card payments, you're missing out on cash flow. And this is data again. 22% of credit card payments over the last 3 months have happened after 5 p.m. and before 9 a.m. So this is just data that you can get publicly. This is our data, but we made it public. You can understand that people are paying after hours, and if you're not there to pick up the phone or to process a credit card, you're missing out on 22% of potential credit card revenue. So what we've done is with NetSuite, if you're looking for a payment solution, whether you need a data management solution, we can set you up within NetSuite with a Pay Now button on your sales orders, on your invoices, on your emails, and if you use EzyCollect, on your reminders too. And if a customer gets this email, for example, 8 o'clock at night, I click this Pay Now button, and straight away I go to a customer portal. This is my customer portal for my supplier. So I assume you are Stark Industries and I am Bertoli. I can log in here and I can see all my invoices in NetSuite. I can click view or download, and I can actually view that invoice live in the proper NetSuite format as well. And of course, you can have the Pay Now button on there too, right? So you can have Pay Now everywhere. You can actually query an invoice. I can come and say, hey, and that'll go back to you as an email. So you can reduce those barriers or those, why people are not paying you. Maybe you charge them freight and they said, hey, I'm not paying it. And because you charge freight, they've delayed the whole invoice. Let them query that invoice, right? They can part pay or fully pay that invoice, right? And when I click Pay Now, what you have is they can generate their own email for a receipt, which is saving you time. And then they can pay by different card types. They can pay by Amex, Visa, MasterCard. And here's the beauty, okay? Here's the thing. You might say to me, I don't accept credit cards because I don't like paying surcharging. It's too expensive, right? But let me say this to you. When you set this function up, you can choose to absorb the fees because that's just, what you do as a business, or you can automatically choose to set up a rule to say for Visa and MasterCard, I'll absorb, but for American Express, I'm going to surcharge. Because I tell you what, people love to pay by American Express because they get points. And points means they can pay for their holiday. When travel starts again, they'll go for holidays. And you'd be surprised. We get Amex payments for $20,000, $30,000, $15,000, but Visa, MasterCard is more like, $3,000, $4,000 payments. So what you're finding is people will pay by Amex, but if you say, I don't accept Amex, it's too expensive, you can automatically set up a surcharge. So when I'm paying that particular payment, I think I spelled your name right, Steve Pierre, I think, PEA. Sorry about the spelling there. You can put in the year and the security code, and then you can notice here the surcharge or the merchant fees are already added here. But when this gets processed, it'll automatically give you the $2,000 in your bank account. It will write this payment back into NetSuite as well. So it will allocate the payment to the invoice in NetSuite. And so it will mark that invoice as closed or as, it's like allocated. But when the money actually hits your bank the next day or in 48 hours, you can then do your reconciliation process to make sure the money is actually in your bank and then close off that invoice completely. But it saves you a lot of time in having to allocate payments. It's all automatic. It's all seamless. And the merchant fees are handled separately in a separate account. So, if you have to, let's say if you're absorbing the fee, that $35 you will still get the full $2,000 and the $35 will be a separate, transaction. So you can close off the invoice completely in NetSuite. And you can view statements here. This is a complete customer portal for your customers. There's a lot here that I've just gone through on the payments. So I see there's a couple of questions, Steve. Do you want me to go through some questions now real quickly, just before I move to next?
I can fire them through to you if that's okay there, Aj?
Yeah, please go through, yeah.
So I've got a question asking, all the comms, are they pushed into NetSuite automatically, example, emails, phone calls?
Yep. So all the activity history is pushed into NetSuite against the customer card. So this has been one of our number one requested features, right? Your source of truth is NetSuite. You might have your sales reps who are logging into NetSuite, so they want to be able to see the history there. So yes, all the history of your activities, your statements, your emails, your calls, your emails are saved into NetSuite and here as well. So your source of truth is always going to be NetSuite. What we've got here is a way for people to access it and actually action things as well. The other point I'll make here as well, in your contacts, we bring your contacts in from NetSuite, but you might choose to add other contacts here as well. Like you might want to add your sales rep who looks after this account as a contact. And then you can start to put in things like in your workflow on the third step, also email your sales rep as a follow-up so that they get a copy of that reminder. So when they're talking to the customer, they can help you collect as well. So I'm answering the question in two ways. One is, yes, it goes back, but you can go further and actually get more information added into EzyCollect to get your sales reps as part of the collection process.
That's good. You can add it and it'll just sync straight into NetSuite. Another question, Can you exclude certain customers from receiving automatic emails?
Yeah, so look, this is, we talked about it being humanized, right? It's all about human connection, and there might be both customers and invoices that you don't want to send reminders for. So the answer is yes. You can do that. I'll just show it to you. You can, at an invoice level, you can exclude a particular invoice as well. So sometimes someone says they owe you 5 invoices. Because one of them has a problem, they don't pay the whole account, right? That's just excuse 101. But now with EzyCollect, you say, hey, that's, don't use that excuse. You can exclude an invoice with a click of a button, put a reason. You can say dispute for whatever reason. My spelling's shocking today, by the way. And you can see that'll now in a minute put it in red. But at a customer level, if you go to the customer page, what you have here is a list of all your customers, right? And we've got risk levels on all your customers as well. And this is actually a very useful page. But I'll answer your first question. You could select a customer, like say here. You can see one's on pause here. That's one that I may have done earlier. You can actually go here and you can click the actions button, and you can exclude that customer as well. And the reason can be he's a VIP or he's my dad's business or something, and then that will exclude them. But as I mentioned to you, in that dashboard, you'll have a list of all your customers who are paused and excluded because, you want to keep a list of that as well. This particular report, I'll just really quickly show you, is a really, really useful report because what you can do is, let's say you have 230 customers that owe you money. You can run filters on these customers, such as show me all customers who owe me more than, say, better one, owe me less than $50 because you don't really necessarily have the time, or you don't want to call people who don't owe you too much money, but who is more than, say, 60 days overdue. So that long tail of customers that don't owe you much money but are quite overdue, and they really add up to becoming bad debt. You can run a filter on them, right? I can apply that filter. That's a really bad filter because there's no one in there. Let's say it's 87 customers. I can then click this button, select all 87 customers in one go, click actions, and I can send a bulk SMS or an email or a statement, but let's say bulk email. So I can use it to send the emails to all those customers, completely personalized. I can change the wording to say, hey, this is your final warning before we go into debt collection legal, and it will automatically merge all the right invoices. It'll attach the invoices, all the stuff that you need, and it'll put it into your history, and they'll go into NetSuite history as well. And it's a really useful way for not just for collections. We have some of our customers who use it for sales. They actually do it for promotions at the end of the month because they have some contact details in here and they just find it easy, so that they use it for that purpose as well. But it's really useful for you to do what we call bulk communications. And then, of course, you've got a lot of reporting from here that you can, so this format you can actually export into Excel and take it into a meeting, and you can sort it by customers who owe you the most and the least, and by risk level and all that sort of stuff. So it's a very useful tool when you're doing your offline meetings too. Sorry,
that's good.
A little bit bigger answer to the question, yeah.
That's really handy. Where you just deal with having those filters and being able to generate it quite easily. Another question come through regarding the payment gate. Is there a separate payment gateway needed for pay now functionality, or is that part of the EzyCollect service?
So the answer to your question is a little bit of a tricky one. So if you are, say, using Westpac or ANZ or a different bank of New Zealand, for example, we can plug into your existing merchant facility, right? And we provide the technology to connect it to NetSuite, to mark NetSuite payments made, and we use your payment gateway and your merchant provider. If you don't know what a payment gateway or you don't know what a merchant provider is, you say, hey, just fix it for me. I need a solution. We've got a solution as well, where we have 2 partners that we work with across Australia and New Zealand that you sign up with them. It's free. There's no extra cost, and they just process the payments for you. To you, it makes no difference, and to your customers, it makes no difference. You see the same exact interface. It's just that if you already have a facility and you want to use it, we can plug that in. But if you don't have a facility and you say, look, I want a better rate than what I'm paying, we potentially can offer you a better rate through our partners because we process like $150 million a month through the gateway, right? So there's a lot more volume that we process. To us, it doesn't matter who you use. It's really a case of us giving you the access to the technology that enables you and your customers to be able to take the payment, process the payment. That's the answer to that question. I hope I answered it correctly.
Yeah,
accurately.
You did. Thanks, Aj. Another question. How do you manage the surcharge invoice? Is it separate email to customer for the fee or push into invoice transaction in NetSuite?
So what happens is your customers actually, if I go back into the payment screen, if I click a payment button here as well, this is if a customer calls you on the phone and you want to process a payment for them, you can do it too. So to answer your question, the customer's actually making a payment. Now, when they get their actual receipt, it'll have in one receipt, because especially if you're surcharging, they'll be charged the full, in this example, let me make it a simple number, like $1,000. I pay now. I'll put my card type, assume it's Visa. Cancel that. So you can see here, let me put a full card number in. The surcharge is so this $18. So they'll get a receipt for the full $1,018 and $12. That's what they'll get. They'll get an email transaction receipt for that. But when it pushes back into NetSuite, you'll have 2 transactions, one for the surcharge. So in the case of, it depends. If you're absorbing it, you'll have two transactions, one for the full $1,000 and one for the $18.12, because that's like a merchant fee that you need to account for separately as a expense account. But if you're surcharging, it's very simple. Oops, can you still hear me, Steve? I think I.
Yeah, no, I can still hear you.
Oh, sorry, Zoom had a funny message. Yeah, if you're surcharging it, then you get the $1,000, right? Because that's what's going into your bank account. It's very simple. Because the customer's paying the $18.12, so it's their liability, and you are getting the $1,000 exactly what you are invoiced. When you surcharge, it's very simple. It's very, very simple, and that gets pushed in straight into NetSuite. That payment of $1,000 will go straight into NetSuite against that invoice, and I can show that to you if you want as well, where in a separate session where it gets allocated, how it gets allocated. It's quite simple.
Thanks, Aj. Another question, does EzyCollect manage retentions as required in the construction industry?
Yeah, this is a great question and a common question, and we answer is no. I wish we did because it gets asked a lot. Retentions are one that we don't yet have the ability to manage in an effective manner. We've got quite a few construction customers who use EzyCollect, but it's not, I would say, optimal, and you can have a go and try it. I would say, you would need to either change some of your own processes if you want to use EzyCollect, or we can look at your specific use case, but the answer is no. We don't have a way of managing retentions unless you create 2 separate invoices, one for the retention and one for the ongoing amounts, and we're able to, because we chase, if an invoice has a due date, that's when we see it being due. So unless you put the retention out being really far away in the future, there are things we can do, but it means a change to your process. So yeah, answer is no, but happy to explore further if you want to.
Okay. For SMS, is there a new customer phone number field created in NetSuite to use, or will it use customer record phone number by default?
Okay, so for SMS, you're referring to if I send an SMS. So let me go into a customer. You say if I send an SMS follow-up to my customer, whether it be automated or manual, the way it works is we use something called a email to SMS service. So when the customer gets the SMS, it comes from it'll say on there your company name. So it'll come, sometimes when you get these like SMSs, it actually has the company name on there. So it'll show your name on the SMS as opposed to a phone number, which is a really nice service. So it'll be, this is coming from, Steve's Plumbing Supplies. And then when you reply to SMS, it goes back to your account's email or whatever email you set up to receive the SMS reply. Because we know in business to business, you don't want to get an SMS back on your phone, right? You're not going to be checking SMSs on your phone for all your customers. So it goes back into your email. And that email is where you can then reply back and respond, so it becomes for your customer, it's a very simple service back to you. When you get the email, you can then call the customer or email them back, right? So there's no custom phone number field or anything required. It's using the SMS gateway built into the product that allows, it's called an email to SMS gateway. Now, if you have a specific gateway that you want to use, it's quite a customizable system. We can use a different SMS provider, but it's something which, depending on the volume that you have, SMSs are never a massive usage for business to business, but it is effective, especially for those one-off things. So like you can see here, you might not have a SMS as an automated step, but you might say, you might want to go into a customer, click an SMS. So this is an on-demand SMS. And you can see you can drag and drop fields, and you can see how the preview, it actually previews it for you, tells you how many characters, how many messages it is. This is obviously a phone from the 1980s. I think it's changed a fair bit since then. And then you can click send, and it actually sends that message, and it's all tracked and stored here as well.
That's all I have, AJ. I'm just being mindful. We've only got 17 minutes left, so yeah, quite happy for you to crack on. And
okay, I'll just go with one more thing I want to show everyone, because it's we talked about we talked firstly about the fact that you need to have a collection system, to automate your process, and that's all about that whole squeaky wheel. So we talked about that. We talked about payments being a really important thing. The first thing I mentioned when I started the presentation, I talked about having good data to make better decisions, right? So onboarding new customers as well as ongoing management of data. So I want to show you both those things in the next five minutes. So the first thing is let's talk about your existing customers for a couple of minutes. Now, when you look at this is an aging distribution, which you can see in NetSuite, right? Which is a interesting graph that shows what is your aging, 1 to 30 days, 31 to 60 days. But this doesn't show you the risk in that 1 to 30 days. How many customers are actually at risk? Right, so we have this little tab here called Credit Insights. It looks at the same data from your accounting system, but instead of slicing it by days overdue, we slice it by risk. Okay, so it's a whole different view on your customer profile of your existing customers. And we've got these risk categories that are a combination of your own data, or how they're paying you, but also how they're paying other suppliers. As I mentioned, we've got the external data coming in. So what you can do now is get, as a CFO or as an accounts receivables person, you're going to get these superpowers again to say, I have 43 customers who I should watch and monitor. Now, again, just to remind you, watch and monitor shows that these guys are paying you on time, but they're paying the market late. Or if you do it the other way around, a potential relationship issue is they're paying you late, but they're paying the market pretty much on time. Or you get prioritized collection where they're paying both of you guys, market and you late. And you can start doing things like, saying, you know what, this is during the coronavirus time. Businesses are having a really tough time. Being late, being reasonably late is now 60 days is not reasonable. By the way, that's way too late, by the way. But just an example, and critical to 80. And it'll automatically adjust these groups to be cognizant of your personal situations with your customers. You don't want to, get data and be too harsh with your customers given what's happening. So you can do all that. You can adjust your risk ratings. But based on that, this will dynamically update. Now you can see I have 4 people in this particular category. And I can then do things from here. I can say view all customers in this group. And I can do things like I can say, okay, I want to monitor those customers. Monitoring is going to give you alerts whenever those customers have any adverse actions like court defaults, or a director has left, or a director has been sued, or anything that comes from the Securities Commission, both ASIC as well as from the New Zealand Securities Commission. We're able to provide those alerts through our partnership with Dun & Bradstreet to give you that information, and your alerts will come right here in the app. So you'll know someone had a low, medium, high risk, what's happened. You can then go from here and you can actually order credit reports. So you can actually get a credit report if you need to on your existing customers. So this is giving you that risk to know that as you are working with customers, you have the right customers on your book, right? And what you can do is you can actually run a report and save it as a filter. All customers who are, say, bad debt, let's say I want to say all customers who are legal action and bad debt risk. And I'll apply that filter. So it'll show me all this, and I'll save that filter. So I can go and save that as my default filter. I can have my next filter can show me my best customers, and I can save that filter, and that'll be your next filter that you can save. So you can go on and you can do whatever you want in terms of the reporting using the actual risk data. But something which is a very common use case, I'm going to go into our UAT system for showing you this one, because this is being launched in the next couple of weeks, is onboarding new customers. Now, I don't know how many of you actually today have a process when you choose to work with a new customer, what you actually do. So I'm not sure your current process of working with brand new customers, but I'll tell you how I used to do it was very much broken. So with this tool, what you can do is you can go into the onboarding tool and you can actually get real-time scores on your customers. So for example, I can go type in a customer name like, let's say, let's pick a good customer name. Steve, any customer that you want to think of in Australia that you want to pick? Let's say ABC Towing.
Sorry.
Okay, same here. So this is a UAT environment, but let me just go into this, for example, ABC. I'll click onboard. What you'll get if the data shows up here in a minute is a result on the risk of this particular customer, ABC Elite Athletes Rehab. So it's going and making a live request into the Downstream database, and what you can see is showing you here a real result of who this of what this person is. It's showing you, all right, what is the score of failure? So based on the score, the chance of failure is 1.15%, which is classified as medium, okay? And chance of late payment is 13%, right? Then you can say, okay, that's pretty high. I want to go get more details, and you can actually get a proper comprehensive credit report. So if you're onboarding a customer, and this is extra $20, $30 to do this process, it's going to save you a lot of money in the long term. Right? If you're already doing this today and you're doing it manually, I would recommend onboarding. And I'm going through this fairly quickly here, but there's a lot here that can really help you to make better decisions on who the directors are, either the directors that they put on their form. We're doing a lot here to automate the trade application process as well. But today, the onboarding is something which I think can be useful for you if you are not already doing something like this.
Cool.
Yeah, and
I've got a question here, AJ, that's
yep.
all right.
Sure.
Are there any charges relating to pulling credit reports?
Yeah, so if you are looking to, let's say you need 10 reports a month, those reports are pretty much 30% the price of what you'd pay through Dun & Bradstreet, because we get a lot of volume. So yes, there's a price, and we can go through the pricing with you on the credit reports because it's actual credit reports. The scores will give you pretty much for free if you're using the Credit Insights module, because the scores we already have in our database to give you. But it's really, if you want to get detailed data, then a credit report is coming from a third party. In this case, it's coming from Ilion, and I can show you a copy of those reports if you'd like to see how detailed they are and why there's a cost to it. But that's something which we can go into detail. It's like a 12-page report, goes through ASIC extracts, it goes through default judgments. You'd always pay for the report, but hopefully it's a lot more cost effective. But only need that report if you need that deeper detail, right? So it could be a free solution as well to some extent.
Cool. Another question, does EzyCollect offer 2FA or two-factor authentication security on login?
So all the login right now is done not through 2FA because we are not the source of truth in terms of the actual data. It's all kept at NetSuite or wherever it is. We haven't had the requirement from our customers to enable 2FA as yet, something we probably have on the roadmap to do. It's not been a highly requested feature, but from a security point of view, the data that we have is it's obviously password protected. It's the credentials are sort of private to you, and everything's stored on AWS, which is Amazon Web Services. So we can talk through our security process if you like separately. But as far as 2FA is not in place for EzyCollect, no, and probably not till the end of the year, right? Because it's just not been a requirement from our customers as yet.
Okay, that's all I have in terms of the questions. Yeah, we're nearly. I mean, time goes fast, right? I mean, it's nearly on the hour.
No,
So
yeah.
yeah, we've got a few more
No,
minutes
look,
with AJ.
yeah, look, and obviously thank you everyone for your time. So look, what I want to do is I want to, Steve said to us, look, you guys are coming and talking to our customers. You need to also give some next steps, right? And also we want to share with you what we've been doing during this time of the last 3-4 months to help our customers, because we solve cash flow, and cash has been number one issue for a lot of businesses. So what we did was, as the management team, we all made a call to offer the entire platform free for 2 months till the end of the financial year. So end of the Aussie financial year, which is 30th June. I know New Zealand is different, but we made that call because we said, let's make it free for people so they can get the benefits of cash and the system for like 2 months. So Steve asked us to mention this because it's 7 days and the offer goes away. But if you are interested in like EzyCollect, sign up. Everything I've shown you is free, including the credit scores and the monitoring, the onboarding credit reports to anyone that might charge extra, because that's a third-party credit report that we can't pay for because it adds up. But everything else that we've shown you, you can get for free. There's the dashboard, the payments, merchant fees is like a third-party bank fee. So again, that's not free. So if you want to use credit card payments and you surcharge, your customer's paying for that, or if you're absorbing, you're paying for that. But fundamentally, what we've seen is it's free for you to use. And what I want to end with here, and by the way, you can contact Winston or Steve. Winston's our NetSuite partner manager, and Steve, of course, is everyone knows Steve, so you can contact him as well, and he can put it. He'll direct it to like Winston. But fundamentally, what I want to say to you is, if you are thinking about a product like this, keep in mind it doesn't replace people, and that's a really important point. It'll enhance the people that you have. That's the only way EzyCollect really works well, because you can see there's so much that you have to manage the product and just set up properly. But what I do promise you, and we can guarantee you, if in 2 months you don't have like a 10 or 11 day improvement or a reduction in your overdue days, we'll just, I'll say refund you, but it's free anyway, but you can just cancel, right? But what does an 11-day improvement actually mean? Right? I want to take a second to explain to you. When I say you can reduce your overdue debtors by 11 days, it's something which people like say, okay, yeah, that's great, but so what? So what I want to show you here is, this is a calculator that was built with one of our accounting. It's actually, Quantum Advisor is a accounting firm, and they have this calculator they use with their clients. And we said, look, we don't want to have a sales calculator. We want to have an actual calculator by an accountant that shows what's the impact of different things in the business to like cash flow. So if you look at this example for a second, let's take a minute at most. This is the current working capital on the left-hand side of a company. So if you assume in a given period, say in a 90-day period, so in 1 quarter, a customer is turning over $2 million. So it's an $8 million business, because over a year it'd be 2, which is a pretty good business. These are the average days for debtors. So for example, 73 is the average for this business, and for most businesses it's around that number. They might have certain inventory, they might have certain days they pay their payables, there's a cost of goods. I mean, there's a lot of levers that you pull to really boost cash flow. Debtors is just one of those levers, right? But if I just talk about debtors today, and I said 73 days on a $2 million business, right? If I say I can reduce that on the right-hand side, the projected working capital, like what is the increase in my cash flow? If I go from 73 less 11 days, what's that? 62, right? Yeah, 62. Okay, that means you are going to have in just 1 quarter, right? So in 3 months, you're going to have an extra 10% of cash flow improvement, or $241,000 more in your bank, right? So this is not necessarily a saving, it's a working capital improvement. You will have savings hopefully for efficiencies, and you'll have less time that you have to spend, and you'll have some process improvements. And if EzyCollect can cost you $300-400 a month, for example. So that's minus that cost. But if you're saving $241,000 every quarter, it's almost, I'm saying to you, you need to give this a go and see the results for yourself. And if you don't get this, stop using it. There's no obligation for you to actually do it. We really believe in our results, and that's why we can put this out and say to you, put in whatever revenue you have in here. If you want me to put in I'll send you this calculator. I'll send it to you. You can do the math behind it. It's all based on very accounting principles. So the math is not rocket science. We can send this to you. So if you want to just in the chat box, let us know. We can send this to you. This can help your business irrespective. It's a good calculator just to use in your own business for other things, not just debtors. And so that's something which I'm happy to share with whoever wants it.
Thanks.
Thanks
for that, AJ. And
yeah, sure.
I'm assuming this special that you have offer. And by the way, thanks very much. I really appreciate it, especially with in line with everything that's going on today. Does this offer extend to attendees only or non-attendees, or are we talking about the whole Liberate family?
So, Steve, I mean, look, for us, at the end of the day, it's offer for anyone who actually wants it, and it's a fair cost because we're actually not charging you any integration cost either. We're just saying, you know what, just get up and use the product. We don't want you to have to worry about any barriers. Use it. If it helps you, great. If it doesn't help you, give us feedback how we can make it better, and thank you. That's it. After the free trial period, the pricing is based on the number of debtors that you have, right? And so just give you a ballpark because everyone's got different pricing situations, but typically if you have, say, most NetSuite customers tend to have 300 or 400 debtors, right, as an average. So you're paying, let's say $300-400 a month. I mean, it's around that. It could be a bit more based on if you want to use, more credit reports or if you have certain, but roughly you're paying around that. Call it, just to be safe, Steve, call it $500 a month. I don't want to underquote someone, and that'll cover you, for the most part. And the pricing is month to month. There's no ongoing commitment. But again, it's about what are you saving and what's the cash flow improvement.
Yeah. Let me ask the audience today. You've seen a presentation from Aj on EzyCollect. You could just raise your hands to the audience that we have today. For those that were interested in learning more or hearing more directly from Winston and Aj about this product. Okay, getting a few hands there. That's coming through. So. That'll be great. So there's some interested people that want to learn more about that product, especially with the offer that you have. So Winston will be their go-to person, right, Aj?
Yeah, absolutely. Winston, he's here on the call. He's quiet, but he's on the call too, so he knows what we're talking about.
Excellent. Look, if there's nothing else, is there anything else that you want to finish off there, Aj, before I wrap things up?
No, just thank you, Steve, for hosting it, and thank you everyone for making the time today. Hopefully you got some good takeaways you can use in your business. Okay,
well, thanks very much, Aj, and to you and Winston for taking the time out to present to our Liberate IT customers in New Zealand and Australia. Look, I want to thank our customers and our attendees for coming along and viewing today's presentation. So I'll wrap things up. We'll send a copy of today's recording to all the attendees and those that couldn't make it today. But on behalf of Liberate IT, thanks to everyone for attending. Special mention to Aj. Really appreciate your time, and hope you and everybody there in Sydney are well. And despite of everything that's going on, you have a good day, everyone. And bye for now.
Thanks, everyone. See ya. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
We hope this video gave you the information you were after. If you have any further questions, get in touch with us using the links in the description. At Liberate IT, we can provide free consulting to understand your business system requirements, understand your company growth plans, and provide free NetSuite demonstrations. For more information, visit our website.